Hey gang, I'm having to make this video again. So if some of you watched a few minutes of the last one, the reason I deleted it because the microphone volume was too low. You could barely friggin' hear it. I hate that, but I have to I'm gonna have to write it down somewhere. That my sound setting keeps getting changed on this stupid computer. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about nosy neighbors that gawk and stare all the time. Here's some experiences I've had. Okay, yesterday, this lady, okay, and this man moved in next door. They look like they're in their 30s, around in there. They've been there almost 2 months. I notice every time I'm outside during the day, I do different things. I wash my cars or I'll wipe bird droppings off of them, different stuff, to keep up my place or whatever. She stands and she stares and she stares. She wears large sunglasses, kind of like this, and just stares and stares, stares. Okay. So I decided yesterday I'm going to give her something to stare at. And I remembered one of those Columbo episodes with Peter Falk. It was back in the early 1970s when I was a teenager. And it was this one episode that really made me laugh. It's where he's wearing that tan colored trench coat as usual in that old car. He pulls into a gas station to get gas, and he's counting change that he has to get gas. Well, he drops the change on the ground, so he gets down on his hands and his knees and is picking up nickels and dimes and quarters, and then he's counting the money. Let's see, 25, 35 cents. So he'd know how much gas to get. Man, that made me laugh my ass off. Well, anyway, that's where I got the idea. And I don't carry cash or coins with me. But okay. I keep my car keys to my Lincoln and my red Ford truck in my right pocket. So, and my keys to my Dodge Ram and Harley in my left pocket in the Cadillac. Okay, I came in and I got some change coins that are in a crystal bowl I keep up in a kitchen cabinet. And just grabbed some in my hand and I put in the right pocket where my keys to my Lincoln go. Okay, and I walked out there and I made sure she was gawking. Yeah, she was like, slike out. All right. So I reached in and got my keys. Well, with it, I grabbed some of those coins. So I accidentally dropped the coins in the keys and go, oh no. So I picked the keys up and put them back in my pocket. And I thought, oh no, that's all the money I got. What am I gonna do now? Just about sounding like I am right now. So I got down on my hands and knees and I'd pick up each one, put it in my hand, and I would count it. And so I go, oh, well, I think that's all my money. Oh no, that's all I had left. And then, I get up like I'm walking back in the house. I kind of got my hand like this on my forehead. And before I open the door to come in, I turn and I glance. Sure enough, here she is, going just like that, shit, just like that. And then she kind of puts her hands up here like this, and then just starts to look around, has this stupid smile like that. Okay, I know See, when her husband got home yesterday, I know exactly. See, she had to go tell him. You know, honey, that guy across the street, there's something wrong with him. I think he's crazy. That's what I wanted her with. I gave her something to stare at. I gave her something to stare at. 'Cause I remember this lady used to do this over on Thurman Street, where I lived back in the eight, with my dad's house or whatever. And every time I'd be outside, washing my cars, her name was Missy Bishop, she'd just stare and she'd shift her body back and forth like this. And she'd just stand with her legs kind of apart and she'd wear short cut off jeans, just kind of short and fat. That shit went on for years and years and years and years and years. And I told a guy that lived down at the end of the street, I knew since I went to elementary school over there in Houston back then. And he said, Earl, just pretend like you're a movie star and it's one of your fans. And after that, I set my mind to think, I'm like, yeah, she's one of my fans. I'm a movie star. It never bothered me again. But here's something anybody and everybody ought to know. If anybody just stands and stares at you, it's because they think you matter more than they do. Because if a person just stands there and stares at you, they're investing their time. It's like I have a lot of enthusiasms, a lot of interest. I have never in my entire life just stood in front of my house and stared at a note. Because there's too many things I'd rather be doing. Why the hell do I want to know what they're doing? I might glance at them, but I don't have a desire to just stare at them. I have no desire to do that. And there's other things I don't understand about nosy people. This was about 28 years ago. No, 32 years ago. Yeah, 32 years ago, almost. I bought this house back in September of 93. Okay, there was a man that lived two houses down. He was in his 40s. And I remember when the first day I moved there, the Ratliffs, they were older people in their 70s, troublemakers. They're deceased now, but they came and told me, they said, this guy over here named Mike, he dresses like a woman in the evening and goes outside and sits in a lawn chair, or whatever. And I told him, I said, so? Is he coming on your property or whatever? He said, well, no, but we don't want that in our neighborhood. So I let this man know way back then. I'd only lived here about 2 weeks. I said, sir, I'd rather not associate with you. I don't worry about what neighbors do. As long as they don't come on my property, I don't care what neighbors do, and I'm not going to be a part of your gossipy shit. I was blunt with the asshole. I don't like people like that. And yeah, I would see that occasionally. He'd get home from work. He drove a 56 Ford pickup. Now that, I found interesting. But he'd go in the house a while, and then he'd come out. He probably took a shower, stuff like that. But I've always been a person, I like to go out, especially in the evenings, just walk out my driveway, or whatever. And sure enough, he'd walk out of that house, he'd have on a dress and makeup, and he'd sit in one of his lawn chairs. So, so. And that went on for like, well, 4 years until he moved. I think he moved in, let's say, 97 or 98, around there. It never bothered me. He never came on my property. But this man, Johnny Server, lived across the street. He'd get up, motherfucker, if you ever come over here, I'll shoot your ass, you weirdo. Crap like that. And this fat Mexican lady, that lived next to him, she'd stand with her arms and she'd look angry. You better stay away from my kids. And this guy wasn't bothering those people, man. I mean, it was so, and I thought, man, they're nuts. They're nuts, man. You know, if anybody approached me, they come on my property, then there could be a problem. And what I'm going to be looking at, they walk up on my property or towards me, their expression, their aggressions, and their hands. You know, it's like police. Where are their hands? What are they doing with their hands? Do they have a blunt object in their hands? A gun, a knife, you know, a baseball bat, you know, whatever. That's what I'm going to focus on. But, you know, even if I go grocery shopping, if a man is wearing a dress, so what? So, I mean, what has that got to do with me? You know, it has nothing on this earth to do with me. And that's something I'll never understand. You know, I'm 69, and we're talking about that. Well, when that man moved, how long has that been? Since 98? Yeah, it'd be 27 years ago. He never came on my property. So, I mean, I don't care. So what, you know? But, you know, it's just people, want to waste their time worrying about what other people are doing. It's like back then that Bob and Pat Ratliff, those old people. Why weren't they living their own damn life? Why did they care how somebody dressed three houses down? I mean, so what? I mean, and why is that lady that's lived across the street for like a month and a half? Why does she invest time to just stare at me, stare? And it's kind of odd she'd be out on her in front of her house all the time too. It's kind of odd. Um, you know, I go outside to wipe bird drippings off the trucks and the cars, or you know, to wash one of the cars they need to check the oil, the coolant, you know, just different things. That and lawn work. You know, I've got a weed eat around the sidewalk, my driveways, you know, mow and, you know, landscape making. And I know she's always staring. So yesterday I gave her something to fucking look at. I gave her something to look at. I think it's funny as hell. It's because, see, even though her and her husband, they'll probably think now, man, that man's crazy. He doesn't have any money. He must be real poor. See, they're thinking all this shit, but I'm glad they think that. Let them think that, you know? He needs to keep his retard wife on a damn leash and say, honey, leave the neighbors alone. You know, that's what he needs to do. Or he may not know she does that during the day, you know, da da da. But anyway, let's try this video. I deleted the last one just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one the same title. Nosey Neighbors, the gawk. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I think that's what I called it. Okay, here we go again.